Getting it set up here. We'll get started. Try to take some stuff through for you. Let's get this rolled over here. Welcome. We'll get some folks in. Got a pretty good episode, I think, today for you. This thing's already starting to mine. See if we can get the Stream Deck going so I can switch some sources. Miss BBT should be joining us here shortly too. Get everything all set up. So we'll let a few folks get on. I'll say hello to everybody. Hello. Get everybody in. We've been have not been on for a few days. Was actually out camping, doing some other stuff. Also working on some videos that I want to try to get uploaded this week. Got a super busy week. We're coming into Labor Day in the States, and that's a pretty busy time. It's like one of the last big kind of holidays coming up until at least we get into, you know, the fall season. So trying to get a few other things done, but want to make sure that we had a live stream tonight. You guys have been looking for this one for a little bit. So what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be taking both. I'm going to go ahead and do both machines. I'm going to do an NVIDIA rig. We're going to add some cards. So an existing rig that works. We're going to add some cards to it. Add another power supply. And we're going to be adding some of these guys to the ASUS Z270 Prime. These are the M.2 PCIe adapters. A lot of people have said that they've been having some troubles with. So what we're going to do is we have a couple of these out of the packages. I'm going to take some over here, some fresh new ones. Also, we'll pull some fresh new ones just in case if we need some additional. And we got the NVIDIA rig. So this is 6 1060s. And I have a MSI rig behind here, which is some 580s. So AMD and NVIDIA, both of them with the same board. Hopefully we can go ahead and get both done tonight. We'll do the NVIDIA first. I'm going to do it in Windows, and then I'm going to shut it down. We'll put simple mining in. You'll see it both from a Linux and Windows side, both for NVIDIA and AMD. So that way we can kind of cover, it's two separate machines, so then we'll have two chances at dorking it up for you guys and see if we can get through that. So hopefully this will, at least if we run into some issues, we can troubleshoot them and see if we can help you guys out that are having some struggles with the M.2 adapters. So, you know, like in our normal fashion, I try to make sure that there's a little bit of extra content. We've seen quite a few comments, both supportive, which is great. I like the support from you guys, but I like the critical feedback too. We've had a few people out there that don't enjoy this format, and what I would tell them is that there's plenty of other folks doing mining videos that are more, I guess, smaller in length, maybe 10-minute videos that are just quick and to the point. That is not this. So I like taking everybody through the kind of meticulous piece of going through it. So that is what we're going to do. Make sure that you guys can hear me loud and clear. I don't have anybody watching the chat tonight. So, Hashing from Houston. I hear you. I was down there this last Monday and Tuesday this past week. I was down in the Houston, Galveston area, so I got out of Dodge right before this hurricane came through there, so got lucky. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the NVIDIA rig, and we'll just take you guys through it real quick. We already did this one, the last video. This has the RGB 850 watt thermal take power supply. It's got the Z270 motherboard. What we're going to do is get this switched over to this screen. That way you guys can kind of see what we're working with here. You guys saw this only on Simple Mining before. So right here, I just put a drive in, and this has the i3-7100. It's 4 gigs of memory. And I use a clone drive for whenever we're doing stuff like this. So this probably had both AMD and, yeah, see, we can see the AMD drivers there. It should have the base NVIDIA driver. We'll do a quick check on performance on these. Again, these are the Gigabyte. You can see the boxes up here. These 6 cards that are in here, the Gigabyte WindForce 1060s. These are the 3 gig cards. Right now I have it at these settings that you can see. Its idle is about 62 out there. Don't ever change this format. Look at that. With that strong $20 CA, I do not want to change this format. I take critical feedback, but guys, there's nobody else doing this live in front of people. We're looking at trying to expand the channel to do more unveilings, more live stuff. I mean, there's not there's a lot of produced content on YouTube, but not a lot of real-time live walkthroughs. So that's what we kind of like. I like that super chat though, Richard Porter. Thank you very much for that 20 Canadian. So this right here is the settings for these cards right now. I got a 61 power limit. You guys can see in the small, about 57 on the power, which is the power meter here. That's 57 watts to the wall right now. Let's go ahead and fire up the miner. And I don't even know if I copied the latest miner on this, but whatever. We'll just use, this has got version 4. We'll go with it. So this has, let's do number 5, that's ETH only. Let's see if this even works. I haven't used this miner. Oh, that's 9.7 too. And we're really Claymore 9.7. Again, like most of these things, guys, I try not to do too much staging. I'm trying to get it to where if we run into problems, I want to walk them through. You guys can watch 100 different videos on how to do it quote unquote right, but I like seeing I like working through the problems with you guys, because if the camera's off, I'm working through it without you guys. And that does no justice for anybody that wants to come back and watch these videos. So if they see something that's just not working. So it looks like this thing's doing about 23. You know what, let's do this. Let's really piss it off. That way you guys can see it. I'm going to bring the display up. Let's do one of these things. Let's keep. That way you guys can see things. So let's get a baseline, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut it down, and we're going to go right into putting the M.2 drive in. And this time I'm not just going to add additional of the same card. That's not fair. Let's add in, yeah, a little Ubik's up. We're going to add in a 1070 and a 1080. I'm just going to throw 2 different cards in there. I just want it mixed up a little to kind of see, like, if you had 6 cards hashing, you wanted to expand upon that with what you had available. That's what I want to try to show. I want the cards to load up. Is that better on the visual? Hopefully that's better. Holy nuggets, finally get to see a live stream. Welcome, Broken Monitor Gaming. Is that kind of a version of table flipping? So the baseline on these cards, these 1060s, with those settings is about 23.5 at 41 mega hash, and we are at 500 watts of power. So we're a little higher on the power than what we were in Simple Mining. That's mainly due to the power consumption that I have it set to at 60. We could probably drop it down to 55 and drop a few more, about 40 more watts of power. This with Simple Mining, with the configuration that we have right now on 6 cards, is running at 447 watts of power for a 6-card rig, which is pretty good. So now that's essentially what we got with these cards. For people that want to know what these cards are, let's go ahead and open up GPU-Z. That way we know a baseline, and then we're going to shut this down. We're going to put the M2s in, and then I'm going to switch this mini cam over to where you guys can see me install it and all that. So this is the Samsung memory. These are the kind of lucky, if you're lucky and you get the silicone lottery, you'll get the Samsung memory versus like the Hynix memory. The Samsung memory is amazing on the 1060s. That allows you to really push them. And that's all those cards. Miss BBT making a presence. So we're going to shut this down. Now that we know a baseline 23 with power usage of around 500 in Windows, and what we're going to do is we're going to shut this guy down. We know that it works with Windows. That's great. I'm going to switch back to scene, and we are going to get into installing some M.2 adapter. So what we're going to do first, before I do the M.2, is I'm going to go ahead and install. We have 6 cards in here. This is a 7-slot board. I have the 6 cards that I have in the configuration right now are using just the actual. Let's get this guy moved around. We don't need the power right now. So the configuration that we're using right now is just the 1X slots in this 7-card board. I always leave the 16X open when I'm only running 6 on this board. It's just what we do. It seems to work every time. I don't have that many issues with doing it that way. I've had a few times where if I leave the far right one, I have to end up playing like the little, moving the riser and all that kind of jazz. If you just go with the 6X slots on this board, or the 1X slots on this board, if you're using only 6 cards, leave that guy open. So since this case is only a 6-slot or a 6-slot case, I'm just going to have the other cards just kind of over here. We're going to add in the other power because we're out of actual rails here. So this 850 has enough for 6 cards. So even though we're way under the power limit of this thing, and we could add a whole other card to it, we will not have enough power rails for the PCIe additional supplemental power. So we're going to add this guy right here, right now. We're going to set it off to the side. We'll add some power to it. And I'm going to show you guys how I do that. We're going to use one of these guys, which is the daisy chain. So this is kind of a dual-purposed video tonight, where you get to see how, in this kind of scenario, if you were going to add another card in, let's say you ended up you purchased another card, what we need to do to get this hooked up is we're going to pull the 24 pin off the board for this daisy chain. So that's the 24 pin that's plugged into the board right now. And what we need to do is, this is going to be the main 24. And why that matters is because it's powering the rest of the machine. We're going to plug that into the daisy chain. It's the larger connector there. This guy's what ends up plugging into the board now. So it's the female side of this from the male side of the primary power supply plugs into the adapter. The male side of the daisy chain plugs into the board. That's how that works. So now that's plugged into the board, and what that allows me to do now is take this extra power supply that's right here. I'm going to set it right over here. Now I don't need all this other stuff that's on this power supply right now, but I am going to use one of the SATAs for the extra connectors, and then we're going to use these PCIe connectors for the graphics card. We'll just leave the CPU you don't need if you had like an extra power supply and you pulled it. I'm just going to pull it off of this just to keep the cables out of the way. So I just pulled the 8-pin CPU. Don't need that. Really don't need all these extra SATAs either. I'm just going to pull that one SATA off of that. And then this connector, this is the 24 pin on the other power supply, is actually going to plug into the daisy chain, which I'm looking for the other end of it. Here, where did it go? There it is, it fell down. So this is all you have is 2 wires here. All this essentially is power and a lead that says, hey, I'm on, and just flips that switch. So it's the main power and the green lead, which these cables are all black, so you can't tell the lead, which just triggers it. It's kind of like a switch. Like if you ever played Minecraft, it's like a little two switch. Just enables it. When this thing gets power, it lights this one up. This is the whole reason why you do that. And the reason why you want to do that is because you can always leave that one on power on now, and it's driven by the second power supply. So we're going to add in real quick and some extra power down here. I do have the other kilowatt plugged into this, the wireless kilowatt, which is this little guy. We'll put a link on all this stuff under the description, but essentially we had an extension coming off the 110 connection. We have a wireless kilowatt here, which feeds this guy right here. So it just shows us a real-time metering, which we'll have on that one. And then we have the other kilowatt right here, where it's kind of dead right now, but because it's not plugged in, feeding the other power supply. So we're going to plug this one into this power supply. That way we have at least a kind of a measurement for it. It's got juice now. We're just kind of lay that off to the side. And since this is only a 6-card rig, I'm going to slide this kind of over. We're just going to put the cards off to the side for right now. Again, this is just a test to validate the M.2 PCIe adapters. And I'll pull, I think I have another board here where I can show you without, yes I do have another board. That way I can give you kind of a close-up of what we're going to do with this. But essentially these expand the PCIe slot to allow more cards. It's just another way to expand your board some for the folks that have invested into those type of boards. So the first one we're going to end up plugging in, we're going to add one card right now to the 16 slot, which makes this 7. I'm going to boot it up. I'm going to validate everything's good with the single slot. That puts 7 on that board, and then we're going to shut it back down, and we're going to put one of these in the M.2 adapter. And then technically we can add a 9th if I go with an AMD card, which we can try that too. So, and we got Miss BBT on the questions if you guys have it as I'm going through that. And we need a riser, which I have a box down here of them. So we're going to pull a riser out right now for the 7th card. And
temp gauge.
Temp gauge? Oh, okay. I'm breaking things. It happens. Gravity's
Someone asked,
a biatch.
as you're opening risers, will a card lose any mega hash being on a riser instead of plugged directly into the board?
No, not at all.
So if they are losing, there's something wrong with their riser, correct?
If they're running it and then it's slowly degrading and mega hash, then more than likely it's some settings that you have like if you're running advanced settings on it where you're trying to underclock it or you're overclocking it, or even if you're in default settings, sometimes you just need to feed a little more power to it. What it is you're playing kind of the settings game. What I would do is I would first start adding a little more power if you're at stock settings. Just give it a little higher power limit and then restart it and see if it works. It usually isn't the riser that's having the issue there because you're actually hashing, it's seeing the card and all that. But sometimes it has to do with power at that point. Or it's just some settings that's not really compatible with what you're trying to do. So I would play around with the power settings first, and then I would play around with some memory and GPU settings. So we're going to set this off to the side. Let's make sure we have a SATA for this. Let's see if I can push this back some so you guys can get a camera view on this of what I'm doing. So I just plugged that into the 16X slot. This is a new 6-pin riser. We're going to set this off to the side. And let's go ahead and go with the 1070. So we're going to add a 1070 to this. I have a lot of cards kind of in flight right now. I do not have a lot right here in the proverbial studio. So I have some of the Founders Edition cards that we were doing some testing with before. I'm going to plug that into the riser right now. I'm going to pull the SATA and plug it into the 6-pin to SATA connector to give us a little more juice. Now that should be connected, and then we need to get an 8-pin, this single 8-pin for this right here. We're going to plug that guy right there. So again, we do have a meter for this. I'll put it over here.
Do you have the biggest 56?
I do not have a 56. I tried to get one this morning. They were all sold out faster than we could click. We are on the hunt for one, and when we get one, we will absolutely do a video on it, guys. I'm trying to get one. I'm going to maybe make a run out to Micro Center tomorrow and to see if I can catch a truck. And if I can, we absolutely will. What I say is just stay tuned with us on Twitter, and the second I get one, you guys will know. But I am going to get a 56 when I can. I mean, their production situation is just horrible right now with AMD. I mean, I don't know what's going on. All right, so we're going to go ahead and fire this guy up. That thing should have power on. I did turn power on there. Power's on there. As long as the daisy chain does its thing, everything should light, and it does. So now this should light up, and we should see Windows come up and start to configure the 1070. As all this stuff's going, guys, you guys are more than welcome to ask questions. And I will do my best to answer questions.
They said they would like to see you do a vlog as you're trying to go and find a Vega.
A vlog on the Vega hunt? That could be a good vlog. I gotta restart this because the CPU fan was being blocked, and it was giving me an error code because it knew that the CPU fan was not running. So I just took away the block, and now it should come up. So that's one thing to keep an eye out for, guys, too, is if you don't see your machine when it's first turning on, make sure your CPU fan is not being blocked, because if it does, at least on the ASUS Prime boards, it's not going to let it fire because it's thinking that, hey, you don't have a CPU fan plugged in, or there's something else going on there, and it's just a protection. It won't let it fire. Francisco, we ordered some old riser expanders and never got them. We just ordered new ones again, and we got a 3x1 board. We got 2 of them coming in. So when those come in, we will do an individual video on that. And like normal, we are going to do that video in front of you guys. When can we expect GPUs to come down in the future? Everything is 3 times the price that it was a year ago. You know, it's super predicated on just like what happened with the 290Xs and the R9 290 series, you know, 3 years ago. Is it took it about 7 months after GPU mining calmed down. And right now, GPU mining's not really slowing. It's slowed some, but there's still people just picking off 1070s and 1060s and all of that. I think it's going to be one of those things that the graphics card companies are going to have to they're going to have to answer the call by just pressing some more silicone. I mean, that's what they should be doing from a marketing standpoint. They should be. This thing's trying to auto mine. They should be just pumping out as much as they can. I mean, right now I think it's pretty evident over the last like 7 months that if they build it, you will come. I mean, it is just what's going on here. Let's look in the Task Manager. Let's switch this over and go into Device Manager. I said task manager, device manager. It did find the 1060. There's the 1060. Or the 1070, I'm sorry. It looks like it's set up automatically. That's one of the advantages of the NVIDIAs. I mean, if you're on the fence of getting into mining, NVIDIAs just set up. I mean, there's very limited configuration with the NVIDIA cards. They really cater to Windows. And you'll see that after I get done with this one here in a few minutes and we move over to the AMD. I just plugged in a fresh drive in there and you're going to have to see the setup of it. And it's not rapid. Let's just say that. So let's go ahead and do a baseline real quick. This is just a real quick test. I'm first off going to look at the afterburner. I'm going to transcend all of the power and the same settings to this with the 1070 because it should consume about the same settings, which it looks like it is. We're just going to push 60 power limit. Usually I do 70 power limit on the 1070s, but we'll just push 60 to it. It's probably just not going to perform as well, but that's okay for right now. From a GPU Z standpoint, I just like to come in here and just make sure that it sees the card. So I'm just going to bring this up. I'm going to hit this drop down right here. And then I'm just going to switch over to the 1070 and allows it to switch, which it did. It brings up all the settings on there. That's how I know it's probably in pretty good shape to be able to run the mining software on it. And again, we're using version 4. This is an older version. I'm going to copy over 5.4 here in a second. And let's go ahead and run Ethereum again, number 5. And there you see it. It's GPU 0. It did take the GPU 0 spot. Now we see 7 cards. That's the 6 up top and the 7th for the 1070. And before we were at 141 mega hash. And we had the 6 cards. And now there you are. So this is showing the GPU 0 at 26. Now, if I give different settings to this, it will increase that 1070 up over 30. It needs more power though. So if we take a scan real quick, we're still at 500 watts here. And if we look at this one, let me move it over. Let's see what we're using right now. Hasn't caught up with it yet. The only thing I'll say about the wireless, guys, is the wireless isn't like rapid when it comes into displaying, like where you have the real-time speed here. It takes this one a few minutes, or sometimes a minute, to catch up and sync up. And right now, that's where we're at in the lower left-hand corner. We're setting at 140 watts right now on that power supply. So we do have that riser and that card. So right now we're only pulling about 100 watts right now on that 1070. If I bring the GPU Z back up again and we switch over to sensors, we'll see that. And then I'm going to shut it down. I'm just kind of making sure that you guys have a baseline of what's going on here. So there's the 1070, and we're at 84% TDP. So yeah, right now we're only using about 100 watts there, and the other 40 being about 105 watts, and the other 35 being the power draw from the actual riser. So now we're not optimizing this. Now normally what I would do is I would individually set the power set or the settings on all the cards. If I brought the MSI afterburner up and we set this up to a power limit of around 70, let's just do 71, and I apply that, we get a significant amount of more performance, or we should get significant more amount of performance out of that 1070 now. We'll do that real quick. And what we'll do is we're going to put the M2 in here. We're going to do the first one. I'm going to put the 1080 in there, so we'll have all NVIDIA. And then on the 9th one, I'm going to go ahead and put 9 cards on this board tonight. We'll put a 480. So we're going to put another card there. Yeah, and it's still holding right now 26. I'd have to go in there and individually set that. De-link them from Afterburner, and then go in there and give specific settings to everything to really push that that 1070 up. And I added about 80 watts of power there when I did that adjustment there. So we see all 7 cards. Let's go ahead and shut this down. Switch this back, and we're going to add now the M2. And what I'm going to do, I wonder if I can do that without remove. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and remove that way you guys can see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these 2 cards. Let me see here. This one and this one's connected. We're going to detach and just kind of set these off to the side while I can get to that M2 drive. This one, just going to kind of set to the side.
Are you able to overclock on the 9th card?
Yes, I'll have to do it individually though. Well, what I mean by that is you have to unlink in Afterburner all the cards, and then you'll have to go through and individually set the settings. So we're just going to kind of push these off to the side here. Nothing really specific here. We just need to get to where we can get to the slot. Got the blue things here. We're just going to set this guy over here. Now usually I unplug both. That way it drops power. And then what we're going to do that power flicker is just the capacitors clearing out the rest. So the one that we're going to go to is right here. I'm going to throw a light on it, that way you guys can see. So on the mini cam, you'll see it right down here. This is where the M2 is going to go. Slot. If you guys can see that with that light, the camera sucks. I do have my GoPros. I still haven't had time to mess with them yet. And what we're going to do is, I had some out of a package, but we'll just use some fresh ones. Those other ones, who knows? I haven't tried them, but I like using a fresh one. So we are not going to use the power, the ancillary power that comes with it. It does come with a little screw and a little screwdriver. And it does have a little thing to open. There we go. Not lose the little screw, hopefully. And we are going to, it goes in kind of like a cartridge, like a little memory cartridge. And then it'll sit there and hang out. And of course I dropped it. The screw is kind of a pain. Again, this is why we unplug the board. We don't want juice running through that board when you have a screw kind of just rolling around. And if you can, kind of start it.
If an M.2 adapter is bad, does it fail right away, or does it just kind of eventually fail?
Let's put it this way. I have not had one fail. I have not. We have probably put together, I don't know, 25 of these maybe. So I do a few spins. I do not let it. I don't know if you guys can tell that. This is not all the way screwed down. It's just barely in there. It's enough to hold tension on it and keep it kind of level. So we just got that one in there. So if you're doing the Z270 ASUS Prime, the A or the R, or the AR or the A, not to be confused. I have the board here, board box here. So there's the A, and then there's the AR. Both of those are what we usually use. If you're doing the first M2, you want the closest to the CPU. So you plug that guy in there, and then let's go ahead and grab another riser. I'm just going to go ahead and get that plugged in.
Okay, what kind of magical M.2 adapters have you had where you haven't had any fails?
I mean, we ordered them from Alibaba like anybody else, and I mean, they've just seemed to work. I mean, they're not. We'll do a close-up of a package. You guys can see which model number that we have. And what we could probably do, you want to write this one down. Let's just write down, and I'll tell them the supplier that we used. I mean, I don't care. The Alibaba supplier that we used, and they can order them directly from that same person. But the only problem is that supplier is the minimum order requirement was 100, which is quite a bit. So if we can get our store together, then we can put some on there, or have somebody that we can link to that we can tell them, hey, you probably have a lot of potential orders if you add these to your store. Alright, so we're going to plug in. I'm looking which card I want to plug in. I think I'm going to go ahead and do the 1080 first. And we will leave that kind of hanging out. So I'm just going to slide this in right now. Slide. I'm just plugging this guy straight in. Again, it's still a little loose, so it's just kind of plug it in there. Now we're going to set this one off to the side right here, and we're going to go ahead and plug these guys back in place. Again, this was just to kind of get there. I mean, who knows? When we plug this together, guys, this might not work too. I mean, I'm hoping it doesn't, for we can kind of troubleshoot it. But I think the only way to kind of do it and do it together is live and see. I mean, if anybody that's been following us, I mean, we've had some videos where stuff hasn't worked, and we've had to come back and explain. I mean, like I always tell you guys, I mean, the big thing is you know, you gotta, if you fail, you gotta fail often, or fail fast, which means just like in software development, I don't want to sit here and work on something for hours upon hours and then not work. I want to try something, fire it up, and try to fix it. That constant fail and get better at it and figure it out. All right, so all those are in. Let's add in the...
Why don't you use the standoffs that are in the box for the M2?
Because the box is... Well, the box technically, I guess, is here. You can use those, which do set the height on the M2 better. So it is a good suggestion if we have them in here. Yeah, and this is what they're talking about. Is there are little screw things in there. So you can use them. I've just always used the screws that come with them because they just kind of work, but this will give you a better, this will actually be a better fit for everybody. I'll show on the mini cam what they're talking about here. I don't know if you can see that on the mini cam, but that's the little standoff, so it screws down and it actually gives enough height. That screws down on the board, and then you can use the mini screw to screw into that all the way, and then that gives it the kind of right height. And if we have a fell here, we may switch to those. They do come with the other little screws that screw onto that. But they should come with your board. That's what those little screws are for. Let's add in this guy here. And we are going to be adding in this, which is another Founders. This is a GTX 1080. We have a Founders 1070 and a Founders 1080. And we're adding into this 1060 rig. And I'm just going to use another rail here because I have it. I'm going to plug in this guy. All right. I'm going to angle it because I don't want them to tip. Because they're just kind of sitting there right now. And then we're going to feed power back to these. And we're going to slide this guy back here. So we have hopefully decent power. Look.
Is the 19 PCIe slot motherboards available yet?
They are not available from what I've seen. I have reached out to ASUS. I will continue to see if we can get one. I'm going to take a safe assumption that somebody like CryptoMine's probably going to get it before us, just because he is in the right geographical area and also has some connections with distributors in that area. I'm assuming that he's going to probably get ahead of us on that, but it's not to say we haven't tried. We do have GPUs ready for it. It's just we have not got it yet. I don't think they're shipping yet. Russell, we are not using a PS or an add to PSU. We're using just the daisy chain connector, which I'm looking around to see if I have another here. Do I have green?
He said, but you're so much cooler than him.
Oh, CryptoMine? CryptoMine just builds. I mean, he does YouTube videos. I mean, he does more of the produced stuff. There's not a lot that do live streams, like live stream builds, and that's kind of our niche.
They're asking if you'd ever do some different motherboards, like a X370 or something with a B.
Like the AM4 boards? So maybe getting my wish here of the drive not working, or the M.2 adapter not working. Let's see anything the motherboard posting. Or at least I'm not getting video of it posting. I'm not seeing it, so what I'm going to do is shut it down and just make sure it's not a bad riser. It's a brand new riser, but it's not to say that it won't have an issue. It is lighting up, which is telling me that it is getting the signal to light up. I'm going to set this off to the side for right now. I'm going to boot up and make sure that we have, and we're going to go into the BIOS and we're going to look at the actual, if it does boot up without that plugged in, we're going to go in and we're going to make sure for using parts in the box. There you go. That's $20 super chat. We're still now getting no posty. So we're gonna have to check and see if we unplugged something when we moved. Make sure all the risers are under each of the cards. Pull that out of the slot. Back.
How big is your spare cable box? It's growing all the time.
Oh yeah, we got so many cables. Looking to see.
Yeah. He says don't use those little pieces of foam anymore under your cards. As spacers.
Oh, under the M.2 drives, yeah.
That's so you can pretend you're MacGyver. Bubble gum and a rubber band.
Yeah, I think we may have unplugged something. Because we're not getting it to post anymore. That or I stepped on something. Let's slide this over. This is where we go through and we make sure all the cards that we just touched, which I felt a couple of them move, each riser, and I felt one that looked like it wasn't all the way in, so we are going to try this one more time. If it posts, then I'm going to shut it right back down. I'm going to plug everything back in because it was a loose riser is why it wasn't posting. So we have a big super chat there. I couldn't see it though.
It says, just an FYI, I've had issues getting the Z270A to recognize the M.2 PCIe riser on the latest version of BIOS. The previous version seems to work fine though.
And that could be it too, but let me
Thanks, Ron.
run like a boss, dropping the 50 spot to show some knowledge. We are going to remove said card and knock over cameras in the process. Not cool unless I knock it over more than once. Good stuff. All right. Now we get to shut it down and see what we made loose. So we kill both power supplies. Take a look. Make sure everything is plugged correctly in.
Says needs to be set for 2x for the M.2 PCIe speed in the BIOS, by the way, otherwise it won't have enough channels to allow SATA.
Yeah, no, that's usually the standard configuration in the BIOS to set it to. You have to set it to 2x, but because it comes standard on auto, and you need to usually make an adjustment. That looked fine.
James says that's about how his rigs work, so he's glad to see you troubleshooting.
Oh, where they turn. Yeah, most of the time you're fine, you're good. It's just when you start to change configuration, you'll get an inconsistent result. And usually it has to do with something becomes loose because you're messing with it. And one little riser that's not all the way on, something like that, will cause the machine to act very strangely. So what we're going to do right now is just validate that we didn't bump anything and unplug anything. And I did kind of set everything off to the side. And then if that's the case, then we'll re-add again. Now I got all the way through all the lights now. White, back to orange, staying on orange, dropped orange, back to white, back to green. Now it should post after that. So I was stopping on an orange light before. Now I'm good. Let's see if it loads Windows and fires the screen. And if it does, then we'll shut it down and we'll re-add again. Yeah, it's mining. So it switched. It was actually firing up. It was just not. It was not. It was doing the auto, and it had switched to the actual card and not the onboard. So you can see it up in the, you guys can see it. It's actually, I could hear the card spinning up, and I just switched over to it real quick, and it's actually sitting there mining. It's like, dude, whatever, do whatever you're doing, but we're mining right now. So I'm gonna switch this back down, and all that problem is it wasn't taking the onboard anymore. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna restart this. We're gonna get into the BIOS real quick, make sure all that's set, make sure it's forced to always use my onboard, and then we're gonna put everything back there. So it's actually working.
You ready for a question?
Yeah, just FYI. Okay, I saw that one. Ron John dropping the 50 spot. Like a boss. You have to reinstall drivers, the flashed BIOS. If you've already tried setting up cards in order and do not skip the 16x2, it seems silly, but I have 3 Z270s that won't see that slot without simple mining OS. The 16X slot? Is that what he was asking?
16x2. You can click on the yellow at the top and it'll hold it.
Yeah, I'm shutting this down. I missed the when I was answering that question, the BIOS setup. Well, the latest version of the BIOS is a good question if it's having issues with that, but we seen that just now here that the 16X was working fine on there. You shouldn't have to set anything on the 16X by itself. Just everything needs to be Gen 2. And if you have issues, you can go into Gen 1 on this board. Go into the local. I'm going back into the actual motherboard. I'm restarting it. I'm gonna try to get into the BIOS real quick, and then we're gonna go ahead and make sure the settings for the M.2 adapter is right, and then we're gonna plug everything back in again. All right, so we're in the BIOS settings right now. I'm gonna hit F7. Let's look what BIOS are we on. We are on 1009/64. That's 723. That is the latest. Internal is what it's set to. It should have always been using that. Max link speed right now is set to 1. Gen 1 on these NVIDIA cards. Actually, I'm going to go back up to SA configuration, just make sure one other thing. Spectrum's off for us. PCI configuration, or PCH configuration, Gen 1. Onboard configuration. PCIe mode is set to PCIe mode. It is set to 2x. I think we were actually working, guys. I think it was just switching over to the primary card. The other thing is you got to make 4G decoding set up. And it is. Save. We're good. We're shutting it down. We're going dark again. We're plugging all this fun stuff back in.
You mentioned earlier you think you'll ever get the Threadripper box back out and show them some more testing and what it can do?
If they would be interested in the Threadripper, we can do more of a deep dive. I do have my Photoshop and rendering and all that kind of stuff. If they want something that's, we'll name the video kind of like not mining or something. If you guys want to see like a real-time Threadripper with twin 1080 Ti's, like doing a little range of things, if that's interesting to you guys, we'll do that. It is a beast. especially when it's doing when it's rendering. Just doing the 4K rendering. It's so sad that AMD was... Here, I'm going to switch back to this. I'm just plugging everything back in, guys. It's so sad that AMD had such a good release with that product. You know, and they're available. You could get them in the store. I mean, I walked right into the store. It was no problem. Now, granted, it's a $1,000 piece of equipment. You know, but they had a lot of them. I mean, when I walked in there, they had like 8 or 10 of the 1950 Threadripper. You know, I walked right into Micro Center. I was able to buy one. They had the motherboards. Like it was like what I would call like a perfect launch. Like it just worked. And then this 56 and the 64 Vegas were just like a crap launch. It's like if they weren't ready, they shouldn't have shipped it, or they shouldn't have tried to release it. Like they should have got their production numbers up and just said, "Hey guys, here's the deal. We built it. It's good. But we still got some bugs to fix, and our production's kind of south, and we just don't want to waste everybody's time. So we need one more month. You know, we're going to ramp up some production." You know, I mean, I think people would just appreciate that a little better. Because right now, I mean, 56 launched and nobody can get one. I mean, go build some for a little bit. I mean, and then come back and say, hey, they're available. You're going to sell them. They're going to sell them right now. Irregardless right now of, even with them being less superior than the NVIDIA cards in almost every category, they're still going to sell them. Because they could always sell them just on price. All right, so.
He asked if the Vega was good, because you said they're going to sell them.
They're going to sell them because they're good enough at the price if they can sell them for the original price that they agreed to. If they're going to mark them up, they're not going to sell. Right now, in at least the Micro Center near us, there's 2 Vegas sitting on the shelf. Because they're selling them for $700 for the air-cooled one, and that's not what was originally, forecasted for them. If those cards were priced right for their performance, they will sell them. But they're not priced right now. If they want to drop the price to $499 for the Vega 64, they're going to sell it. Because it's a decent card for that price. It's not a decent card for $700. Not when you have a $700 1080 Ti offering. You could get the 1080 Ti Founders Edition and it's going to run circles around it.
So do you think with better drivers and unlocked BIOS that the Vega will do more?
I think that, well, the BIOS first off is unlocked. It's just, it has a driver signing issue and the pixel patcher doesn't work for it. So the BIOS are actually not encrypted. It's just a driver signing issue. So you can't actually mess with it if you knew what you were doing, because the timings are not going to be necessarily the same as like the standard Polaris line. So another probably 6 months from now, you'll be seeing timings and all that kind of stuff come out for them. Is there, theoretical limits on that card, you should be in the 50s. I mean, if you look at the real true output of that card, of what's theoretically available in the limit, that card with the right timings, with the right power stuff should be like in the close to 50 mega hash card. But you're still going to be using a crap ton of power.
That's what they're saying in there. No matter what the cost, is the power ever worth it?
Yeah, the power's not going to be worth it. The best we saw on that card is if you drop the power limit down to negative 45, and you juice the memory up to 1100, you can get the card almost a 31 mega hash, and you're using essentially what a 1070 uses on the 64. The real question is can you get that same kind of settings with the 56, and that's what we're going to try to do. Because if you can get it for the 56, it might be worth it for the price, because it's still going to be cheaper than the 1070. All right, everything's plugged in. just going to skip this guy and go straight to the card because that's where it likes going to. Let's flip some things. M.2 adapters back in. LED lights look good. Orange and amber went away. White's on.
He said the fans on the Vega that you tested sounded like a hairdryer.
Well, it's that standard, that kind of standard pull throw where it's like the 290X, 290s. We're just playing with video sources here right now to see if video went to one of the other. Well, it probably actually went to the 10. It went to the primary slot. That's that one. Looks like the right slot because now it's showing video. It just hasn't came all the way up. And it might be this BIOS issue with this board. Again, this is a fresh board that has the latest BIOS.
He said it was working. Go back to the original HDMI connection.
Oh, it just wasn't displaying on my board or my video.
That's what they say.
Yeah, it's just not getting through the capture. All right. Well, it should go on that one then. Yeah, it might be just not making it through my capture card because.
I see it.
Yep, there it goes. Yeah, it's just not making it on the capture card. Yeah, now it is. That's a capture card issue. Because I have it looped to this monitor to the through the capture twice, so I mean it's that way they can see it with me.
Well,
so
now it's not.
It's coming up.
Should run over the wire.
Nope, I see it. It's good. It's on. I just flipped to the main. So most of that, guys, it looked like it was just from, might have been just my setup. And not so much that those were issues. Okay, so it looks like the M2 is fine. And it looks like it sees everything. We will test it. And again, we're going to go right from this really quick, and then we're going to shut it down, and we're going to plug in the AMD card in the 9th slot, and we'll go 9 cards on this board. So it looks like everything's there.
You always use onboard video even with 9 cards?
This board with 9 cards? No. Usually we do at max 8 on this board.
No.
With one of the M2s. What was it?
You use the onboard video whenever you have
Yes.
8 or 9 cards.
Yeah, it works fine. So we're gonna do Just make sure those settings are set. We're going to drop this back down to 60 again, just for power consumption standpoint. And we're going to run a miner on it. And see if we see all 8 cards. And then we're going to shut it down and put the other one in there. There it is, 8 cards. So at least the first M.2 adapter is working. So you can see GPU 0 now is the 1080, and then the 1070 is GPU 1, which is doing the 26. Again, we're not pushing settings to that. That GTX 1070 will do about 20 or about 33 and a half with all the right settings on it. So now we're at 188 mega hash with 6 1060s, and power wise, the 1060s are right here. Power wise, 503 watts there. Let's get the and we're at 265 watts. That's the wattage on the other power supply. So we're at 767 watts of power usage right now. A little glare on that. I didn't realize that glare. You guys can't see that. How about that? Maybe for that. So we're at 767 watts at 188 mega hash. And that's 8 cards. So we're going to shut that down. We're going to add in the other M.2 adapter, and we're going to add an AMD card to the mix here. Really to piss everything off. No, it should be fine. Let's go ahead and the card we're going to be using tonight, the trusty old ASUS STRIX. This is a Republic Gaming 480. This thing's like gold these days. It's a triple fan one. And quite a few of these for a while. And we're going to get another riser.
They're saying 1,500 watts on a normal home outlet. We don't have a normal home outlet, do we?
1,500 watts. It's like 1680 max. Oh, I mean 1,500 if you're on a 15 amp. You don't want to push more than 1,800, 1,900 on a 20 amp. But like if you're in an apartment or something, you're probably on 15 amps and you don't want to go over 1,500.
What's the special power bar you have across the back again? They're saying, what do you mean you don't have a normal home outlet?
That is a 30 amp connection. I've been promising a video from that and I still haven't done a video on it. So that is a 30 amp 240 volt connection. So it's like a dryer connection, but it actually switches over to a power bar back there. You'll see it when I move this rig here in a second. That is a the actual power supplies will use 220, so it doesn't matter if it's 110 or 220. You'll plug them in, the power supply does the conversion. So it uses, it's a little less heat. But that one power bar supports, and that one connection with the 30 amp actually allows me to have on that entire power bar 5,750 watts of power. So that's quite a bit of rigs. So I mean, that's 6-7 rigs without any issue on one bar. So I could have like seven rigs right here on that one bar. Getting some bad video.
You showed it on a video, but you didn't really explain it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've shown it on a few videos. If you go back to like live stream 7 or 8, I actually show it when we got it in. The actual video header, we got low video quality. Not 50,000, it's 5,000.
$1 billion.
$1 billion. Okay. So, you know, I did pull one too many SATAs off that. Let's pull, we're going to add this other SATA back to this. Because I have 2 on the one.
Give it a while she's got that.
Yep. I don't want to juice her out. The, oh, we need to add in the other M2. Question is, can I reach that from here? I'm gonna try just to speed this up. What we're gonna do is add in. Nope. Doing what I say not to. Turn those off.
Axel put that power bar on his dryer breaker and then started using a gas dryer so that way he could still have the electric.
Now that's using your brain, buddy.
Because a lot of times your laundry room will be ran with both gas and power and electric.
Yep, that'll work too. I mean, technically, you could totally do that, and then when you want to do your laundry, just switch it.
Yeah. No.
Hey, you know, desperate times calls for desperate measures sometimes. You know, I ain't gonna hate.
Not in my laundry room.
I ain't gonna hate. Somebody needs to get their crypto grind on.
You have a server PSU that you were going to show somebody. Didn't you mention that?
Yes, we ordered one. It's not here yet. We ordered a 2,400 watt server, platinum server PSU that is supposed to come with 18, I believe. I think it's 18. 8 pins. Which should be very interesting. Oh, yes.
Alright, BBT, they were asking who you had on the Mayweather-McGregor fight.
I thought Mayweather was going to beat him pretty good, but I'm actually impressed he did as well as he did. That should put a testament to how hard he worked to get in at least enough shape to be able to, you know, handle that. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Mayweather just talks all this smack. I mean, he's like the best there is. He gets to talk smack. Until somebody can come there and shut him up, he gets to just do his business. That's the advantage of beating everybody you've ever faced. It's one of the perks of the job. Okay. I thought I could do this without...
No, you didn't put any bets on the fight, did you?
I did not put any bets on the fight. Slow down, killer. This thing was set to full torque. We're getting enough room to where I can get to this because I was trying to do it between a card and it was not happening. Okay. So I put the tower strut in there, as I'm going to call it. And now it's just a matter of feeding the little tiny, the smallest screw you've ever seen into the spot that's not magnetic, mind you. And this little screwdriver barely fits.
If they tracked over 100 million pirate streams of that fight.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, so it only takes one person to order it, and then it takes anybody that has access to that person that ordered it to open up their new HD, Samsung Galaxy, whatever, 7, 8, Apple iPhone, connect to Facebook, line that phone up perfectly, and hit live stream. And now you got a pretty much HD connection, going through somebody's local home internet that you could set up as encrypted. And now you got full distribution. I mean, it's one of those things that it's like piracy kind of sucks in a way because it's kind of anti whatever, but I mean at the end of the day it's just that they need it's one of those scenarios where it's kind of like it's 2002 the year, and Metallica's suing everybody for the RIAA to try to go after everybody that's kids and grandparents and everybody else downloading MP3s. If you go in with just guns blazing from an industry and you try to shut all that stuff down, there's a better way. And that better way is to capitalize on it, as an industry, to try to figure out, okay, people are going to do this. So maybe in this weird world, they allow it in some way. But they allow it with a condition, like, okay, you're going to stream our stuff, then we gain access to something. There's got to be a way for it all to work and not cost everybody $100 to watch it. Or you kind of do it like Netflix, to where, a lot of people go download whatever, but I guarantee you almost everybody out there has a damn Netflix account and paying flipping $5 to Netflix because they've made it so cheap that it's just like, it's ridiculous not to just pay that money and have access to Netflix, or share that cost with somebody and spend $250 here and another person spends $250. They just got to figure out a better way to do it, and not through, Okay, so this one is going to this bottom one right here that I just put back on. We're just rewiring this, guys. It's funny, it's like it's easier to put 6 cards on than to add a 7th or add a 9th, because especially in a case that's not really designed for it. So we're going to set this guy up here. We're going to go like that. Unfortunately, I did not get to watch it though. I was actually camping under the stars with the fam which was fun. And I got to watch the replay. All right. I think everything's plugged in. 2 drives in. So that's the second. That's the second one. And for folks that have not seen exactly what I'm doing, I'm going to grab another board, and then I'll let you see it kind of a close-up. Of it. Oh, look at that micro center box or bag. All right, so this was a fresh one. For the folks that have no idea what I'm doing, M.2 slots here and here. First one we plugged in is by the processor. This one here is the last one that I just plugged in. So these little guys go here and here, which allow this board, and that's what those little things hold those down. This board allows you to have 7, 8, 9. 9 connections, one board. That's what that allows you to do. What else is in here? i3-7100. That's another build. Alright. Let's go ahead and turn all this on. Put this on. Everything's lit up. See and come up. Yeah, it looks like it's coming up. Let's see if it finds this other card here. It's already starting to try to mine because I already had that set up to auto mine. Let's see if it sees it. Going in device manager, let's go to here. I do not see it yet. Those hidden devices. Ay, ay, ay. Build a hard drive build. Let's go back into device manager real quick. Let's do a scan. Sees anything? Does not see anything. Nada. Well, let's do a restart here, and I'm going to go into the BIOS. $400,000. Nice digital mining solutions. We're first going to check this, and then we'll check. M.2. That's all good. Let it come back up. See, this bit takes us normal people 10 hours to get this working. Still not seeing it. So what I'm going to do is shut this down. I'm going to swap to a card that I know that works. I'm going to see if I drop to, if we drop a setting here, you over here, to you over here. So all I'm doing is taking one that I know is working and plugging it into that slot, and I'm moving the other one over to the other slot. Fan speed error detected. I agree with you. Let's try to reboot that again. I agree with you because I had it blocked. The Earth is flat. Earth is not flat. Welcome, Cody Williams. You made it.
That's funny. Digital Mining said, I wish my abs were as flat as you think the Earth is.
So I swapped the 480 with the 1080, and the 1080 went bye-bye, and the 480 now is showing up. The test after I'm going to do this real quick is I'm going to not change anything. And I'm going to add, I can add one more NVIDIA card and try it with Linux just to see if it sees it in Linux. And boot it up with Simple Mining with 9. Because Simple Mining's driver is not set up with to run NVIDIA and AMD at the same time. See how much longer it takes a 480 to set up than an NVIDIA card? It's amazing. I'm looking for. So I'm just doing a pixel patcher on this because this driver does, or this card does have a BIOS update on it. The BIOS has been updated, so I'm just pixel patching it and restarting it. I'm making sure it shows up, guys, on the 480. And provided that comes up, then then I know that the 480 is good and that it is just that other adapter. I can swap that adapter real quick too. Yeah. Everything looks good on it. This Windows doing its thing. Trying to shut down. Yeah, we'll wrap it up at 2 hours, guys.
What time did you start?
I started a little later than normal. It was 8:40. Oh, well, you looky there. Is that the 8th one? Another video card? There's the 1080. And the OS is freezing on me, so I think it's actually trying to set it up. So now we got the 1080 back. I'm going to pull and nuke the 480. I'm going to go in. I'm going to show hidden. And make sure that it's not in there, and it isn't. Uncheck show hidden. I'm going to scan. I'm going to let it find it again. Now that's it trying to set it back up again. I'm going to pixel patch it one more time. Once it stops blinking. So right there, it's trying to do it. So you can open up your task managers and see the driver installation module as it's going through and it's pushing through. So we didn't do anything with that M.2 adapter, guys. All we did is we gave it a reboot and it just caught it that second time. More than likely it was there, it just had not seen it. The only other thing that I did is you got to go in, and sometimes when things are sitting in there under show hidden devices, if something's not showing up, nuke any instance of that type of card. So you see I have like a ton of 1066 gigs in here, and I have a whole bunch of 1080s, because this drive that I was using, I cloned it off of another one that had a lot of different setups on it. You see 570s, 580s. You could go through and clear out, just uninstall each one of these things if you're having some kind of issue. So that's exactly what we did there, is we went through, got rid of that 1080, and on that next reboot it found that 1080. So it's still doing the driver installation module. We got to let this thing do it. This is the one crappy thing of why I hate Windows sometimes, is it's just like, as it's going through and it's rebinding everything, it just takes its sweet time. And you got to let it do its thing. I want to see that driver installation module go away. Another way you could do this too is if it's still seemingly it's having a problem, I would use the device driver uninstall and I'd pull off the entire AMD line of drivers that are on this, and then I would just reinstall it manually. That might actually be a little faster. You can still see, oh, the man down there for a second. Now the Radeon settings is using most CPU. Windows installers using this stuff, so now it's finishing up the rest of its installing. Should be done. Blinking on us here. Okay, CPU's down to 0. Still have stop code 43, which is fine. I believe everything is done with it. Now I'm going to run the patcher one more time. Now that I know the driver's all the way installed, the patcher signs that driver. Now let's restart and see if we see that 480. You gotta wait for that driver to finish installing before you sign it. I try to sign it too early. Now it looks like it's installed, and now it's going to finish setting up the audio, which it just did. That's why it's still blinking, and now everything looks good. The key part of it through that is making sure in the task manager that it's done doing its business here. You see how that audio is still setting up? There it is, Windows Audio Endpoint Builder. It's actually going in and it's finishing up that HDMI pass-through for the audio for the graphics card. Now it's done. Now it's back up to systems, finishing out in these Superfetch. These things are all Windows log stuff that's doing. Windows is done now, it's just on idle. It's doing all of its rest post-process stuff. Okay, now everything's installed. Let's see if this turd actually runs. Let's do Ethereum. Let's see if this thing blows up or if it'll give me all 9. Now normally you have to run them in 2 different things. So there it did the 1. Now a total of 9 cards. There we go, 217. We got 9 cards running in Windows on Claymore. Success. 217. Is it still too blurry? I'll tell you what. I'll go up a notch on the display settings. I don't know if that really went up much. Let's do this. 1024 by 768. No, that's going to square box it. I think 1280 by 720 is all you guys got. Oh, that's not the right one. 5. Nine cards total. And there we go, 217. Success. So the only thing, I think what's people, if you guys are using Windows and you're having problems with this and it's not seeing it, I think the culprit, by and large, is under your device manager, is you got to go in there under Show Hidden Devices and you got to nuke those old instances. That actually holds like an actual GUID ID of the hardware ID to those particular series of cards, and sometimes it just does not work. And I don't know if it's just a Windows thing, but I know whenever I uninstall those hidden devices, it starts working. So yeah, that's 9 cards with Claymore. We physically can't add more to this right now. So now if people were wondering power-wise, we're still at 503 there. And obviously the 480 hasn't been touched with power or anything. And we're up to 438. So we're looking at 438 for the 3 cards. And then 502 for the other cards. So you're looking at 930 watts right now with the 9 cards. $938, or let's just say 940 watts for 9 cards. And mind you, we have not messed with the RX480 at all power-wise. and we're at 213. I mean, it's descending a little bit because we didn't mess with any of the settings, and I think what we're losing, let me look here, 23.4s, 23.4. So I mean, we're getting, if we went in, and I mean this video is kind of running long, so we're probably not going to get to the machine behind me, which is just some 580s. It's 580s, but you're going to see a lot of the same kind of thing here. I think this one kind of proves the point. If we came in here into Afterburner and we unlinked, oh, that should be interesting. I don't know if I've opened up Afterburner in Windows with 9 cards. Let's see here. It's seeing them. So if we unlink, so the 480, if I come into the 480, I can't mess with the 480. The 480 is locked right now. Oh, it's because this already had the settings built into the 480, but it's not actually running what it needs to. This one needs to be running at a power limit of 70. This is the 1080. Or the 1070 rather, and then this needs to be, I run that at 10, and then I run this at 550, apply on that. Those all are running where they should be. It's only going to show me 8 here, so I don't see the 1080. And then we're going to Sapphire Tricks. Let's see if I can see the 480 in there. Whew, look how big that is. Nope, it's not showing me the 480. It says it there, but it's not giving me any of the settings on the 480. Let's go back into here and let's do 5 again. The 480 is locked because the BIOS I have on there has all the settings locked on there. And what I would have to do is I'd have to pull DDU the driver that's installed on Windows right now, reinstall like the blockchain driver, and then driver sign it, and then we'll have control of that. So there, we juiced it up a little bit. GPU 2, if you guys look on this right now, GPU 2 is that RX 480, and it's getting 30.6 mega hash. GPU 0 is the 1070 at 28. So we're at 221 right now. And since we dropped the power, we actually went up in mega hash. We're at 502 here, and we're at 417 here now. We actually dropped, we went up in mega hash, and we dropped power, which is the right way to go on both the ways. So now we're running optimally, and we're at 417 there. So we are at 919 watts of power running 220. And I'm probably throttling right now temp-wise on the 1070, which it feels hot as hell right now because I got it kind of leaned up against the board right now, so I can't really breathe very well. So I think that was a pretty good order. Crank it to 11. Well, I mean, we did the M.2 drive install, guys. I think we kind of went through it. I'm going to switch back here. And we'll answer a few questions. We're at an hour and 56 minutes. We're going to wrap it up at 2 hours directly. I'm looking at the chat. Ms. BBT is sleeping in her chair, so she's not going to be... She's not watching the chat if you guys wonder why she went dark. I can't even fear the fans on those cards. Yeah, that is all those cards running, guys. You can't hear them anything making any noise here. So we did have a few issues if we recap. I mean, one of them was the video got switched around on me, so I had to plug it into one of the primary cards. And then we just reseated everything, and I think the key part was just making sure Windows could finish the driver install. You can monitor that with the, just looking at Task Manager, watch what it's doing. If it's sitting there at idle and it's not doing anything and you're not seeing any kind of movement on something, then you probably got some other issue there. Blueberry, will you be joining? I can join Discord for a little bit if people have questions. You should be live on Discord too. Blueberry, we'll talk about that. I should probably be, we need to work that out. Live on Discord chat too. Female power supply adapter, is that the daisy chain you used? I will get let me grab the other daisy chain. And I will show you guys the pack that I'm using. So the one we're using is here. Let's do this. This is the actual model and where they're coming from on the mini cam that you guys saw. They come in a little pack like this, and you got your part that plugs into the motherboard. You got your primary power supply that plugs into this female connector. These are the male connectors that plug into the motherboard, and this is for the secondary power supply. That's all there is to it. And you can get those on Amazon. We have links on our other video. I'll put links to this tonight in this description. That way you guys can get to it. They're pretty cheap. I think they're $9, $10, something like that. And totally worth it if you have 2 power supplies. I don't understand how you can have a Vega and it was like the end of the world hurricane sound. And I have 9 cards and can't hear a thing. The 1060s hardly put out any sound at all. The 1070 and the 1080, even though they're founder editions with the single fan thing, they actually don't spin up that fast to keep cool. And then the triple fan 480 barely even sweats when you're running it. I have no idea if this actually will run. I'm trying Zcash just for shits and giggles to see if it actually will run with all the different GPUs while we're answering questions. Do you have a water-cooled Vega 64? I'd like to see that flat out. We are trying to acquire a water-cooled Vega 64. We have not been able to get one. There's what the machine does with Zcash. Yes, we still have a Vega. We have the Vega in the another box. So 2,400 souls on this box right now. I mean, you're only getting 250s out of the 1060s. And they got a 1070 and a 1070. I don't see. It did not launch because this is the NVIDIA miner. This did not launch the actual card. EK Waterblock launched their Vega earlier today. Yeah, we usually don't do anything with EK blocks or anything like that with mining. It's just a lot more, it's just an additional expense. 1070's running slow on Zcash. It's just not, the MIM clock, or the GPU clock's not turned up, Kyle. We can get over 500 with if I turned up the GPU clock on it. Go here, and I take this to 120. Two-ton hasher, have you ever used the add 2 PSUs? Yes, I have. We've used a couple of them. How about an episode of compiling Wolf's GPU miner for Crypto Night? For for like Monero, using like CMake, you guys would actually be interested in watching that. There's your over 500 on GPU 0. That's the 1070. So there's the 1070 running at 500. Which currency was the Vega monster at dual mining at 100%? Was it Saya and Ubik? Yes, it was Saya, and it was also Decred. EPK art, that you can do Saya or Decred. You can get crazy numbers at if you set it to, I believe, you have to look at the sheet, but I believe it was like, you'd set it to like 33 and it was just a beast. Yeah, the 1070 is getting up to almost 80 Celsius. There, 81. Look at that. It's up against the board here, so it's not getting good airflow right now. So it's getting hot. We got a misconfiguration on the XMR, but I'm just letting it run. Must have got a bad Vega. That fan was crazy loud when you were gaming. That's just the way the Vegas sound, man. They're friggin' loud. Yeah, I'd have to go in there and individually set up the settings, because on like this XMR, because it's just not the right settings. What was the small number of 56 sell price today? There was the Vega 64 and 56 both are just, there was no supply. Like, the supply is horrible. Do you prefer using what you're using now or the add 2 PSU? I like the cables better than the add 2 PSU. There you go. There's Monero right now. That's not configured with all these cards. Like, I could get more if I actually went in there and set the right multiples on there. It's actually slow mining. But right there's 2792 Monero. That's what this thing's getting right now on all the video cards. if anybody really wanted to know or cared. Almost 3,000 Monero. This thing would probably be about 3,600 if I configured the actual right block size. Well, the multi-miner is set up that way. I mean, if I go into, let me look here. Oh, I don't have Notepad++ in here. I mean, NVIDIA is really not good on anything else. I mean, library maybe. We did use AMD's blockchain driver. There's the library speed for anybody that cared about this machine. So it looks like we're at about 1,500. Again, this is skipping over the AMD card that's in there. It's kind of just ignoring it. But the machine seems like it's running pretty good now. I'm just gonna let this thing run tonight. See how it, oh, that's not running right. Let's just grab multi-miner. Alright guys, I'll take a couple more minutes of questions. I'm hoping to have a video out tomorrow too. We'll see what we can have together by then. I should have some more equipment showing up tomorrow. If we can get the 56, we will absolutely have a video on the 56. We will do it just like the Vega 64. We will go through it together. I think that will be a great video for everybody. There this machine is on Feathercoin. I'm going to make sure I caught everybody's super chats before we wrap it up tonight. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. Nick Burby with the $10. You have to reinstall the drivers in Flash BIOS. If you already read that one. The 16, no, you don't, Nick. Ron James, the cool 50 spot. Looks like we had the latest BIOS and it worked. Ron John Jr. rather. I think we're good with the current BIOS right now. Yep. No, I think we got them all answered. Almost 5. That's 4 mega hash, 4.7 mega hash. That's 4,700 kilohash. Haha, no problem, Josh. Alright guys, I think we're going to wrap it up there. It was a good success build tonight. It was good to walk you guys through that. I was glad that we kind of did and went through the two M.2 drives. And again, one last closing view showing everything working. We'll give it a one that everything will run on, which is going to be, close it out on Ubik. Hodl pool, Ubik doing well. I think Ubik's over $2, so it's moving. We'll give it old 33. Throw it on Hodl pool and let it run tonight. There it is, 9 cards total. There's the 8. Allow access. I'll scroll up again. You guys can see right there is the there, and then eight 222. Look at that on Hodl pool. 31 on that 480. A 480 like a boss. At 31 mega hashes on that 480 right there. That 29 is the 1070. The 1070 I could get to 31 if I clock it up a little more. But a strong 200 mega hash unit. We're at 421 power there. We're at 503 there. Here's the 421, and it was a good run, guys. Good 2 hours. We'll let that run and see how stable it is. Maybe I'll throw it on Twitter tomorrow and show that it's still rocking. We'll just leave everything kind of out tonight, and we'll call this one a night. I think it was good. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Hopefully you guys, hopefully it was good and inspiring to go look and see if you guys can fix any of the M2 issues you're having. I will put the supplier that we get these from. That way you guys can have that, and we'll put all the parts and stuff that we went through tonight out there. Again, shameless plug for any of your Amazon shopping. You guys are doing us a solid if you go out there and just click one of those links, do some shopping on it. It's a way for you guys to donate to us for the stuff that we're trying to do for you guys and bring it to you. We do appreciate it. We do value it a lot. So thank you for your patronage there. And we will, if we get Vega 56, hopefully if I can get it tomorrow, I am running out, make a run out to Micro Center. They do get trucks on Wednesdays too. I'm going to try to snag one if I can. And we will bring that as a live stream to you guys. We'll unveil it, we'll load it, we'll play with the drivers and stuff with it and see what we can get out of it. So stay tuned, check Twitter, and you'll see us the second we get it.